Imagine this. You wake up. You're in a forgotten tower room, maybe somewhere cold. It's 1793. Your hands, they're small, clutching these rough blankets. Feels damp. No one talks to you, ever. You're maybe 7. But no one's told you that either. And they certainly haven't told you your name is Ferdinand, or that you were born into, well, the incredibly powerful Habsburg dynasty. Your mind just works differently, and because of that, you're hidden, locked away. This isn't some, Gothic novel plot. It's real, heartbreakingly real for many. So today, in this deep dive, we're uncovering that hidden history. Royal children born with what we now call Down syndrome, sons, daughters. Their very existence just fundamentally challenged everything, didn't it? Divine right, perfection.
Exactly. Our mission today really is to sort of sift through centuries of these royal secrets, these forgotten stories. We're looking at how these, well, immensely powerful families across Europe and even beyond dealt with this huge challenge to their image, their perceived perfection. And it's not all just grim concealment, though there's plenty of that, sadly. We'll also find these surprising little moments of humanity that somehow managed to break through.
Okay, so let's start there. In those early days, the deep shadows where the secrecy was just absolute.
Yeah, we really have to begin with Ferdinand of the Habsburgs. Vienna, 1793. Like you said, a child hidden away. Those distinctive almond-shaped eyes, as the hidden records later revealed, they marked him as, well, wrong. In a bloodline claiming divine appointment, no less. He lived in silence in this forgotten room. It just set such a grim precedent, really, for what was to come for others.
That idea of complete erasure
Yeah.
just wiped away. The need for that perfect lineage seems so overwhelming, and it makes you wonder, how common was this level of fear?
Oh, it was pervasive, absolutely. Take an unnamed French prince, born 1640, son of Louis XIII, lived only 43 days. Now, the official court records, meticulously scrubbed clean, just mention a weak infant who failed to thrive. Very sterile. But then centuries later, private letters surface between physicians, and they describe in detail features we'd recognize today as Down syndrome. And back then, they needed someone or something to blame, so palace servants whispered about curses or maybe divine punishment, all because a child was born different.
Wow. So with that level of secrecy and such, well, dire consequences for being different, did any humanity ever manage to peek through, even in small ways?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting and frankly dangerous for those involved. Think about the ideology back then. Even trying to look at it scientifically was a threat. In Spain, there was this physician, Diego Matei Zaparta, this is 1693. He actually documented a princess. Her name literally scratched out of the official records. But he noted her extraordinary affection, how she found pure joy at music, really human details. And Zaparta, he ended up burned by the Inquisition, his crime. Daring to suggest these children weren't cursed, but maybe part of God's mysterious variety.
Burned by the Inquisition. Just for suggesting a different perspective.
Intense!
Shows incredible resistance, though, doesn't it?
It really does. His notes, hidden for ages, show a mind way ahead of its time. It highlights that complex human element, even within these rigid systems. And sometimes that translated into, well, maybe not public acceptance, but certainly private care. Look at Prince John in the UK. Born 1905, King George V's youngest son. For a little while, he was public, photos, some appearances, but then he developed seizures and what they called learning difficulties.
Yeah.
So, complete removal. He was sent off to Wood Farm, lived there with his nurse, Charlotte Bill, they called her Lala, and she was incredibly devoted, kept his little drawings, his treasures.
That's quite a contrast, isn't it? The public image versus the private reality.
A stark contrast. You have Queen Mary, his mother, quoted after his death saying it was release and mercy, pretty cold. But then you have Lala Bill, quietly preserving these mementos of his short life. It really drives home the personal cost, the individual human story behind the royal protocols.
And was this pattern strictly European? Or did similar things happen in powerful dynasties elsewhere?
Oh, not at all limited to Europe. Look at the Ottoman Empire. Sultan Mehmed III, this is the 16th century. He had a son. Now, instead of the infanticide that sometimes happened, this son was sent to the cage, basically isolation within the palace,
Yeah.
for 23 years. And what did he do? He spent his days creating these intricate, beautiful patterns with colored glass, a whole silent life of art, this vibrant inner world that basically no one would ever see.
23 years, making art in silence. So, as time went on, did these attitudes, these royal approaches, ever really start to change? Or did that resistance just persist?
Well, the shift is complex and actually quite dark in some ways. World War II had a strange impact, specifically the Nazis' horrifying euthanasia programs targeting people with disabilities. That, ironically, made some royal families reconsider. Not out of sudden enlightenment, mind you. It was more that the fear of external persecution, of public knowledge leading to something even worse, briefly outweighed the internal family shame. Private concealment suddenly seemed safer. A chilling calculation, really.
That's a really unsettling reason for a shift. So where does that leave us? How did we get from that dark calculation to, well, today?
It raises huge questions, doesn't it, about how we decide who has worth. But you do see gradual change. You can contrast those times with, say, Prince Guillaume of Luxembourg, born 1963, acknowledged, living in special care. A crack in the denial. Then, 1973, King Juan Carlos of Spain's nephew. He actually appeared in family photos, was spoken of with affection publicly. It's a slow crawl towards understanding Down syndrome for what it is, a genetic variation, and acknowledging that individuals can and do live full, meaningful lives, a world away from those silent tower rooms.
Yeah, looking back, the patterns are just so clear, aren't they? Shame, fear, hiding, erasing. That archive of absence you mentioned, the destroyed papers, the names scratched out, the unmarked graves, it's a really stark reminder, as we've seen blue blood, as they say, can run just as cold as any other when faced with difference.
It truly can. And these hidden lives, they really force us, even today, to confront some uncomfortable truth about how society treats difference, how power structures create and enforce these narrow ideas of what's worthy or perfect. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if just one royal family, way back in those centuries of denial, had stood up and said, look, this is our child. Yes, they're different, but they're beloved, and we will not hide them. How might history look? It leaves us asking, what really defines worth? What is perfection, anyway?